Hello, welcome to today's immigration tidbit. So, have you or do you know someone who has been denied immigration benefits because they committed marriage fraud and they don't know what to do? Well, let me tell you the basic law on marriage fraud so you have a better idea of what's involved and what types of actions that you can take. Now, let me tell you the typical story that I get in my office. I get in my office, either one of two situations normally. First, I'll get someone who has been madly in love, married, and has like 4 kids, and they can't get their status adjusted because 20 years ago they have some ruling from somewhere that the marriage wasn't bona fide and that they committed some kind of marriage fraud. And so, the first things first, if there is a ruling that marriage fraud has been committed, and it needs to be a specific ruling by a specific entity at immigration. So a lot of times when you get these rulings, if it's not from those particular entities and it's not exactly what it needs to say, then you don't have a lifetime bar. But assuming it is, then that means you're not allowed to get immigration benefits the rest of your life. It doesn't matter how bona fide the current marriage is and that you have 13 kids and that you're madly in love and it's all for real. You can't it doesn't matter, okay? So that's the first scenario that happens. The second scenario is someone gets an RFE, a request for evidence, saying they want to prove, immigration wants them to prove more specifically that the marriage is real. Or they tried answering it themselves. The case was denied because they were unable to overcome the burden, okay, of showing that it's a bona fide real marriage. Keeping in mind, there is a difference between the marriage not being bona fide and committing marriage fraud. Okay, those are two different things. But anyways, and that's for another video. But anyways, the law here is that if the proper ruling with the proper entity comes down and marriage fraud is committed, you're not allowed immigration benefits the rest of your life. So what can you do? Like, let's go back to the first example I gave. Somebody comes to my office, clearly, legitimate second marriage, clearly, with kids and all that. So what can we do? Well, there's a couple different things that can be done. One, you can, go into the facts and I determine why they made that ruling. Okay. Now, I'll exaggerate. Obviously, if the person in my office says, well, I paid so and so $10,000 to marry me. We did not consummate the marriage. It was absolutely to get the green card. Well, then obviously we have a problem. But nobody says that, okay? The marriage may not have been as bona fide as the current one, okay? They may have only known each other a little bit, and it might just not have worked out. They might have lived in different places. But what happens is when I inquire more into the specifics as to why, they might have had that ruling and what exactly happened, there's usually a decent explanation as to what happened and why it was bona fide. It just didn't work out, okay? And they just didn't respond properly, and they just didn't, have the opportunity to do what needed to be done. So we could do a motion to reopen. Okay, that's the first thing that can be done. But that takes a long time, and it was funny as I gave this to a consult to some other person, and the person immediately responds, well, you can't do a motion to reopen because the timeline has passed. And so I had to explain that there's what's called a sua sponte motion to reopen, which you can do at any time, and which you're essentially asking the governmental entity on their own motion to make the motion to reopen, okay, and then to grant it. And they can do that on their own at any time. You're just basically prompting them with all of the facts and the law. So that's one way. The other way, which I tend to like doing better to start off, is doing a new adjustment, okay, with the second marriage, but then incorporating a very detailed brief, law, explanation, affidavits, all kinds of stuff to show why marriage fraud was not committed in the first instance. And in some cases, that works. In some cases, it overcomes the ruling and they are able to move forward and adjust status. And you kind of kill two birds with one stone. You get rid of the marriage fraud issue and you do the adjustment. So that's the preferred way that I like to do it if it can be done. There of course are more ways of doing things and more nuances, but those would be the most popular that I use in situations like this. Okay.